Hey guys, welcome to Media Kramsumption. Today I'm going to talk about an anime that I've been watching called Level E. This is a relatively new 13-episode anime series based on an older manga series by Yoshihiro Togashi. And you might know him from his writing on Hunter x Hunter and Yu Yu Hakusho. Level E is a relatively short manga series collected in just 3 tankōban. The series loosely follows the exploits of an alien prince, who is very affectionately referred to as Prince Baka, or in English, Prince Idiot. So basically, through a series of events and expository circumstances, we learn that the prince is basically bored with his life on his home planet, and he lives now to just mess with people. And he has decided that the best place to do this would be on planet Earth, where people still don't think aliens exist, because Earth is to the Galactic Federation of Planets, or whatever it is. Earth is still classified as an observation planet, so they're still watching Earth to determine when is the right time for them to know that alien species exist. Prince Baka decides that Earth is the perfect place to do hilarious things to keep him entertained. Now, the first 3 episodes follow his adventures, if you will, basically just him in this apartment with this high school baseball player, and basically him making his life miserable. And it's really, really funny. It's pretty well written and pretty sharp. The jokes are really good and really universal. There's not a whole lot of stuff that can get lost in translation here. There's some slapstick and just generally humorous situations. After the first few episodes, they kind of ditch the high school student a bit and go off and start exploring other characters and other situations in which the prince is more loosely involved, or kind of a third party to the events that are going on. And he still has a hand in all of it because he tends to orchestrate these things for his own entertainment, but he is not as much of a main character in kind of the middle episodes of the series. And this is really strange, especially because, for me, I was really enjoying the first few episodes of him with this high school student, and I thought the development that was going on there was really, really interesting and a lot of fun. And then they kind of ditch that and start introducing different storylines and different characters, and quickly ditching those characters and moving on to other things. Now, this series is not long. Again, it's only 13 episodes, so you get a good 3 episodes with one character, and then you'll get a good 3 episodes with the next character, and a couple episodes with the next one. And toward the middle of the series, you've got like maybe 1 or 2 episodes that are just devoted to totally independent characters that really don't have a bearing on anything else in the series. And the prince still kind of has his hands in things. And then toward the last half of the series, they kind of start going back and picking up all these loose characters and just finishing their stories. And then in the last 3 episodes, they return to the high school student from the beginning of the series and wrap up his storyline with the prince, and throw in a storyline about how the prince must get married, and if he doesn't get married, then there's a potential that Earth could get destroyed, and all this kind of stuff. And it feels and it feels really rushed. It doesn't feel like it was building up to that. In fact, it feels like the series wasted a lot of time being a bit experimental. And granted, what they did was brave for a series of this type, and a comedy series that's kind of supposed to keep people interested. It had no qualms with kind of jumping around and doing its own thing, and didn't seem to be afraid of losing viewers for basically dumping its characters, or seeming to, until the very end of the series. But you'd have to stick with it to know that. So I guess there's some applause to be given for how they for doing what they want to do, and kind of doing something a little bit differently, a little bit experimental, and really out of the ordinary for a show of this type. But ultimately, with the story that they tried to introduce in the last last part of the series, it felt like those middle episodes where they were jumping around and playing around ended up just being a waste of time. Whereas if they had spent all of that time developing character and story with the original characters that they had started the series with, and keeping the prince as a true main character and not just kind of a third party, I guess, antagonist, really. In a lot of ways, in the middle of the series, he becomes a kind of an antagonist that doesn't have a big part in the story, but in the first storyline, and then what ends up being the last storyline that ties together, he is truly a protagonist. So it's really interesting what they're doing with that, but it doesn't feel like it serves the story in its entirety. It doesn't feel very complete in that sense. It feels like, again, like a waste of time. But overall, the show is really funny and really interesting and does a lot of neat things. The opening and ending themes are really catchy and fun. The opening theme is actually by an actress-singer named Kuriyama Chiaki, and a lot of you may know her from Kill Bill. She played Gogo Yubari, I think that her character's name was in that, and she also had a part in the film Battle Royale, and she's quite famous over here. She's been in a lot of stuff. The opening sequence is really nice, and the show as a whole is pretty well animated. It's nice and crisp, and of course animated in high definition, like everything these days is. But it's colorful and interesting, and it really pops. So. Although I do have some problems with the series, I would say overall it's really enjoyable, really funny, and deserves some applause for some of the experimentation that it does with the format and the genre. So yeah, I would recommend Level E to anybody who's interested in watching something a little bit different. And it's only 13 episodes, so 13 22-minute episodes. It's a piece of cake to get through. If you didn't like it, you haven't wasted a whole lot of your life. So there's that. But yeah, so that's it for Media Kramsumption. Until next time, take care, guys.
Thank you for watching.